Hello and welcome to the fearsome Francorchamps circuit for round 6 of the 2022 Formula SimRacing World Championship. My name is Edward Hunter and let's take a look at the driver changes heading into Belgium. Roberto Pignataro suffered a wheel failure causing his retirement at Le Mans. Arnage Competition have withdrawn his entry from Spa whilst the Italian fixes his hardware. Also absent from the Ardennes Forest this weekend is Jake Dennehan with computer problems of his own. In his place at Edge eSports is Dutchman Danny van der Niet. Cas Rietveld, meanwhile, remains at Unicorns of Love whilst Carlos Martin continues to recuperate from his injured knee. Finally, Super Venturi have acquired the services of Poland's Kak Panizio after their signing Liam de Vallis failed to show up for 3 rounds in a row, citing chronic lack of motivation. All of us at FSR wish Liam a speedy recovery. Michi Hoyer took his first pole position of the season ahead of championship leader Colin Spork, but rookie Jan Grankvist made a stellar getaway from 3rd, going up the inside of both drivers to snatch a lead for Super Venturi, while Spork went toe-to-toe with Hoyer through Eau Rouge and Radion, before the Unicorns of Love driver slipstreamed his way back into 2nd place by taking the outside line through Les Combes. Hoyer then found himself losing another place on lap 2, this time to Netrex's Noah Roivers. Roivers' teammate Vosnica then passed Lauren Kiersmakers for 6th, but Spork had rapidly caught Grankvist, the Finn finding himself defenceless against the DRS as Spork reassumed his natural position at the head of the pack. Sander Kallas had formed a train of cars behind him and Vosnica wasted no time in clearing the Estonian as the returning Kiersmakers followed him through a lap later. Hoyer was able to repass Roivers for 3rd, but Zolczuk lost control of his ground effect machine exiting Eau Rouge and found himself skittering towards the wall and into an early retirement. Vosnica and Hoyer were the first to pit, but Grankvist misjudged his pit box, emerging just in front of Roivers and being jumped by Hoyer. Spork re-emerged alongside Damien Skovron, who tried in vain to keep him behind, as Grankvist also passed the yet-to-pit Oldenmenger. The top 3 were running long on medium tyres, with Alex Siebel making contact with Kallas as he came through at Les Combes. Then it was Jordan's turn. He kept his mediums in better condition and went up the inside of the Estonian through Rivage, completing the pass on the outside of No Name Corner. Just behind, Braxok was going long on his soft tyres and got around the ground effect car into Blanchimont. The Hungarian then muscled his way through at the bus stop chicane, bringing Arnage into the top 3 at their home race. This was not to last, however, as Spork incisively went up the inside of Kallas at the source before clearing Braxok down Kemmel Straight. By the end of the lap, Spork had caught the Red Bulls and dived up the inside of Jordan into the bus stop. The German was reluctant to give way though, and attempted to dive back up the inside through La Source. Spork used his fresher tyres to simply drive around the outside of him. Siebel was now exposed and attempted to break the toe, but there was no stopping Spork as he breezed around the outside to retake the lead through Les Combes. Siebel then pit for soft tyres, emerging just behind the Netrex of Adam Rainey. The Red Bull cleared him easily, and a lap later the British driver found Nizio and Kallas slipstreaming each other to pass him. Braxok had also pit for mediums, finding no resistance from Rainey. Nizio outbraked himself at the bus stop chicane and rejoined over the curb, barging into the side of the Arnage car and forcing Rainey to go wide in avoidance. Roivers had been trailing Grankvist for several laps but now made his move using the DRS, as Jordan finally stopped on lap 18, emerging behind Braxok on another set of mediums. The Red Bulls were both on the move as Siebel cleared Vosnica and Jordan dispensed of the Arnage car. There was disaster for Ivan Leonov as Nizio hit him unsighted and sent him off track into the wall. Incredibly though, Leonov somehow made it back to the pits. There was more drama at Les Combes as Rietveld tried to go around the outside of Oldenmenger and found himself facing the wrong way. Roivers now closed on Hoyer and used the DRS to relieve the burst driver of 2nd place. Grankvist meanwhile had fallen into the clutches of Siebel and was easy prey down the Kemmel Straight as Kiersmakers found Jordan pulling the same move on him the following lap. Roivers made his 2nd stop on lap 22 for mediums, shattering race leader Spork. Siebel then snatched the lead away from Hoyer as Skovron cleared Braxok to run 7th. Grankvist then made his 2nd stop just behind Michi Hoyer, as Roivers undercut them both to stay ahead and then made progress past first Braxok and then Skovron, with Hoyer hot on his tail and following him through. Rainey tried to go around the outside of Robin Pansar for 12th, but a lurid slide through Rivage saw the Swede take advantage as the two briefly banged wheels.
Get this straight.
Grankvist had now caught and passed Braxok's Arnage as Siebel pit from the lead for softs, and the Super Venturi then made light work of Skovron, who was having one of his better races of the season. Keersmakers had a moment at the top of Radion, allowing Callas to bravely squeeze past him before attempting a double move by going side by side with Voznica through Lecum. The pole defended the inside on exit, forcing Callas to go wide and allowing Keersmakers to dive back through into Rivage. The Belgian then performed a ring of death around the outside of Voznica at La Source. Meanwhile, Siebel cleared Braxok cleanly, but things were about to get very messy behind as Callas tried to make it free wide into La Source. The Estonian was sandwiched in the middle, and it all ended in tears for himself and the netregs of Voznica as their front wings became collateral damage. Nizio got a run on Pansar down the Camel Straight, but the Burst Simplexity driver held on around the outside of Lecum to run side by side in a thrilling showdown between the two. Even after contact, Pansar still just about kept his foot in, and a superior grip of the soft tyres saw him pass the Super Venturi round the outside at Rivage. Roivers and Grankvist visited the pit lane for the third and final time, but Hoyer had caught up to Jordan and took to the grass as he desperately sought to find a way through. The two then pit together, emerging just behind Roivers and both tucking right into the Dutchman's slipstream to overcome him and continue their duel. They then did the same to Lauren Keersmakers, overtaking him through Blanchimont, as Spork pit from the lead. Hoyer and Jordan continued to duke it out. This time the burst driver used DRS to pass on the outside as Roivers held off Grankvist behind them. Spork once again regained the lead from Siebel using push to pass and DRS before the Red Bull made a final stop for soft tyres with 7 laps remaining. Hoyer and Jordan continued to dispute second place, swapping places yet again as Braxok used the DRS to get the better of Skovron. Siebel was now on a charge and took 5th from Grankvist, but then the Super Venturi driver dropped it on the exit of Stavolo and was forced to pit for a new rear wing. Siebel continued to make progress, passing Roivers to inch ever closer to the intense second place battle between his teammate and Hoyer. On lap 41, Hoyer made another attempt to pass with DRS, but Jordan refused to yield and the result was complete chaos. Hoyer attempted to rejoin right into the path of Roivers, who stomped on the brakes but could not avoid the burst car in time. Janos Braxok spun trying to avoid Jordan, and he crashed out, joining Roivers in retirement. After pitting for repairs, Dennis Jordan was channeling Dennis the Menace as he got into even more trouble, squeezing Voznica at Lecum and sending the Netrex P1 into the wall and out of the race. Jordan would overcome Nizio on the final lap, but it was yet another miserable result for the German. Up front, Colin Spork completed a masterful drive to win the Belgian Grand Prix, taking a well-earned 4th victory of the season and growing his title lead even further. Siebel climbed from 7th on the grid to 2nd, while Skovron avoided the late carnage to take his first podium of his World Championship career in 3rd. Local hero Keersmakers was a strong 4th, ahead of Grankvist and Rainey, who took their highest ever finishes. Callas was 7th, Pansar was 8th, Rietval took his best result in 9th, narrowly beating a thoroughly disappointed Jordan. Nizio came home 11th, with Hoyer and Leonov finishing a lap down. It was also a day to forget for Voznica, Roivers, Braxok, Oldenmenga, Zux and Van den Eet, who all failed to finish. At midpoint in the season, here's how the standings now look. Colin Spork has a colossal 41-point lead over Alex Siebel, who moves up to 2nd, with Dennis Jordan now 15 points adrift of his teammate. Noah Roivers drops to 4th ahead of Sander Callas, but Skovron now leads a very close battle for 6th. We'll be back on June 12th for the postponed Japanese Grand Prix at Matsusaka before the Italian Grand Prix on the 26th of June. But from me, Edward Hunter, and from the heart of the Ardennes Forest, it's goodbye.